Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TheAirsoftTech podcast. Once again, it's been like a year since one of these was recorded, but I really wanted to start it back up because they're super easy to do, and they're a lot of fun, and it's just a fun, cool video that I think a lot of people liked, and it's easy for me to do, like I said. So, I do not have Ryan Fisher here. I haven't asked him if he wants to come back on yet. I've been meaning to because he's a really cool tech friend of mine, and we haven't really gotten to talk a lot recently. But I do have a guest here with me who will more than likely be a co-host. His name is Brendan Guthrie. Yeah, there he is. I've been friends with him for like 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how long.
I think it's like 8 years, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, for as long as we've been playing Airsoft together. You guys know a lot about me, but you don't know anything about Brendan, so I'll let Brendan kind of say a little bit about him.
Oh, man. What don't I have going on, really? My life seems so hectic nowadays. But, let's see. I'm in mechanical and aerospace engineering. I'm almost done. I'm in college for that now. I'm currently taking a year off for an internship at NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I'm at currently. So, I mean, and that'll get Ryan for about 8 years, except for like a big hiatus when we started college. And we're getting back into it. So, it's fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've played Airsoft ever since it was backyard Airsoft, and then it's evolved into making trips to Cincinnati indoor Airsoft to play in an abandoned factory. So
that place is pretty sick.
It is. If you guys listening have never played there, which I bet a lot of you haven't because it's country's huge. But Cincinnati indoor Airsoft is just super fun, and if you're in the area, you should come up. At least 40, 60 people a weekend for a couple hours, and then it usually thins out to 30.
Yeah, it really depends. When we went the last time, with all the other guys, there was a lot more people there than when we went the first time. And when I went, what was it, last weekend? I think it was last weekend. There was less people than the first time we had went. So I mean, it just kind of depends. There was maybe 30 people there max, and most everyone had cleared out by 2 or 3 p.m.
It's one of those things, one of those fields where if you have over 50 people, it's maxed out.
It's too many people, yeah.
If there is the most recent time we all went together, there was 60 or 70 at one point, and it was absolute chaos. Nobody was getting anybody out consistently. It was you get one kill, you get hit once, then you go back and respawn and repeat. And It was fun, but it wasn't. It's just too small a field for that kind of thing. But it's still a good sized field. It's just too small for over 50, I think.
Yeah, remind me to tell you later about the very last game I played last weekend, and I can go into the whole story, but we can get into that later on.
Gotcha. So first, I want to talk about the fact that Brendan is essentially an engineer or soon to be engineer for NASA.
Working on it.
And he doesn't really work on his own guns often, unless he absolutely has to. I want us to talk about that.
All right, yeah, that's fine.
Talk about your history with tech work, then talk about the emergency tech work that you had to do because of my failed work.
It wasn't really your failed work. Okay, so we've been playing. I've known you for a long time, and the whole time I've known you, you've basically been God when it comes to airsoft teching. And you know all the good parts to get, you know everything to do, proper shimming and area of engagement stuff, and you taught me a little bit about that years ago when you were teaching me some stuff. And I can take stuff apart and put it back together. I've been doing that my whole life. It's why I became an engineer, or am becoming an engineer. Can't wait till I can actually say that I'm an engineer officially.
Right.
But yeah, I've always just because I can just give it to you, and it'll pretty much be guaranteed to be done perfectly, and it's just a lot easier for me because it'll take me forever. It took me and John Wick, a guy that, for the viewers here, John Wick is the call sign of a guy that we met at an airsoft game in Cincinnati,
who only wears a suit when he plays, or did when we played with him.
Yeah, he's pretty sick. He didn't wear a suit when we played this past weekend, but I stayed at his place this past weekend when I went to play, and when my gun quit working, we can get into the whole story a little bit later, but it took us like probably 2 hours to take apart the gearbox and put it back together correctly, and it took 2 of us. So it's just so much easier for me just to give it to you and have it done properly and quickly, and I love you for that. But yeah, I had to do some emergency work on it, which was actually a lot of fun, and makes me want to do my own teching work.
It's as you know, if you want to do it right, it's got a lot of startup cost to it. Like, I have a lot of tools that are very specific for these guns, like just tiny screw sets and like Torx bits and then Phillips head and then like Allen keys. It's like you have so much stuff going on. And so, I mean, like, whenever I was younger, it was a lot of startup costs, but now it wouldn't be too bad, you know, now that all of us have jobs and actual, like, predictable income. So, and we're not relying on, like, Christmas money every year. But yeah, no. Brendan is somebody who, if he got into airsoft teching, would be as amazing at it as he is at 3D printing, which is another thing that we could talk about, because Brendan's 3D printing stuff is fun to talk about.
It's a lot of fun. It's definitely my favorite hobby, and I'm so glad that Kevin got me into it.
Gavin is another one of our airsoft friends who, he doesn't really tech, but he's a pretty tech-savvy person too, so.
Yeah. So do I tell the story of the emergency teching?
Yeah, I want to get into that, because I know a lot of my viewers have that thing too. Like, suddenly a gun breaks down at the field, and you have to fix it, and you're using the emergency toolkit, your emergency surgery kit that you brought with you, and hoping that you can replace something.
Well, this will also be a plug for EDC, which would be great, because at the field I didn't bring any of my tools with me. I just did to grab my toolbox because it sits with my 3D printing stuff, and I didn't bring it with me. Didn't think I would need it, because, like, you know, you had just worked on the gun like a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. True.
So I get to the field, and I should have known that it would have quit working, because it does it every game. I swear, like, every day that we go out to play, it'll quit working, and then, like, you'll fix it mid-game, and it'll be fine. And then it'll do something the next game, like just not feed. Yeah, exactly. Something usually pretty simple. So all I had was my Gerber Flick on me.
That's incredible.
And it actually did pretty well, except I needed an Allen key, which I just borrowed from the field. The guy at the field had one. Yeah, for the rear, for reference, Brendan has one of the old JG G36, like the long version. The one that I actually did a video on recently, that's the one I'm talking about, or that we're talking about. And so that rear Allen key, it's on the back of the gun behind the stock, where it holds it in, like, there's a small piece that attaches to the top of the version 3 gearbox shell that allows the G36 to mount an Allen key through the back into that gearbox piece, so that it kind of secures the gun body to the gearbox shell, kind of keeping it all aligned and kind of sturdy. And everything else in the takedown is either pins or it's Phillips head. Or Torx bits. Yeah. When you get down to the gearbox itself, there's like 2 of those, which I think is stupid. Like, pick one type. Anyway. Yeah, I agree. Torx bits is the best one, I think. Yes. You can't. They're very hard to strip. Yes. But yeah, I got there like right at 10, which we never do, but I got there at 10 because I was going by myself. And I get to the field and I set up. We play like maybe 2 games, and we go out. I think it was like either the end of the second game or the end of the third game, and I got to start. Let's see, midway through the second game, my gun starts doing that weird thing where it's like the hop-up's turned up too far. Yeah. And it won't, like, it'll shoot either every other one, or like the BBs are just curving off in every other direction. And it seemed to depend on like which angle I was holding the gun at, like leaning around corners and stuff, which I thought was weird. But I didn't think anything of it. I was just going to deal with it. And then, like, at the very end of the third game, like with a minute left, it just didn't fire at all. Like, the gearbox wouldn't cycle. When I pulled the trigger, it kind of made like that click sound. Like, like it was like the motor was trying to turn, but nothing was happening. A classic sign of a mechanical failure in an airsoft gun. Yeah, which is great. And see, this is why I love being an engineer, because just based on sound and how something feels, you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
And if you know how it works, like what's wrong with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which, of course, I didn't know exactly what was wrong with it. But I was like, it sounds like it's trying to cycle, but it's not. So, like, that game ends, and I come back out, and, like, you taught me to disassemble the gun years ago, which I still knew how to do. Which I love the way the gun comes apart, where you just take out the mag well and then like disconnect the wire. Or let's see, you don't even have to disconnect the wires now because you put it in a MOSFET.
Mm-hmm.
So you just pull that barrel assembly out, and like that's all I did at first because I didn't really want to take it down any further than that right there at the field. But I pulled the whole barrel assembly out, and I looked down it, and right there at the beginning where the air nozzle fits into the hop-up unit, there was a BB that was stuck in the hop-up unit. But it wasn't like lodged there. I couldn't get it out, but it had like 1 or 2 millimeters of like wiggle forward and back in the barrel.
The BB did?
Right. Yeah. It was weird. So like I had to actually take out the inner or take out the hop-up assembly, and you know what a freaking pain that is. And John Wick literally took it and just blew it out. And I'm like, wow, thanks, man. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. I used to be in band.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a testimony to the air seal there, because I don't know, just all those components there and blowing into it was enough to push the BB out. That's funny.
Yeah. But I figured my initial thought was, okay, hopefully that was all the problem was. Like maybe this BB got jammed in there and the air couldn't escape, and therefore I don't know. I didn't really think about it too much, but I was like, hopefully that was the issue. And I reconnected the battery real quick without putting it fully together, and same thing, just like the gun was not cycling.
Yeah.
Which I kind of figured would happen, but I was hoping that wasn't the case. So I sit there and I talk about it. Like I sat out for a couple games. I don't know. I needed a break anyway. So I sat there and I started showing, the old guy who runs the field. I don't know his name. At Ohio Valley.
Yeah.
I go up to him, and because I borrowed the Allen key from him, and so he was asking me like what was wrong and everything, and I was like, yeah, for some reason like my gun just quit firing. It doesn't sound like it's going to cycle or anything. And he looks at it, and there's like this little slit on the gearbox itself, right by the piston
on the cylinder.
Yeah.
The port part. Yeah.
Yeah, and like as I was just showing it to him, he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, well, if you look through this little slit right here, it doesn't look like your piston head is connected to the piston." And I was like, "Oh man, you're right."
Oops.
No, because like I was just like moving the gearbox, and you could see it sliding back and forth, and like I could tell that the gun was like fully, like the spring was fully compressed, or at least mostly compressed. And by this point, it's like 3 or 4 o'clock already, and I just decided I was going to leave it and just go with my pistol for the rest of the day, just like for like one more game, and then we were going to leave. But yeah, when we got back to, and I'll get into that last game because that's the game I want to talk to you about, where I only had my pistol.
Oof.
But that's just gameplay stuff. So when we got back to John Wick's house, literally like 2 of us were nearly sitting on this gearbox. I had all the screws undone, and I was just like full force, like pressing it on the table, so that the spring wouldn't just shoot out and go everywhere, because it doesn't have that quick release where you can just shove the screwdriver in the back.
Mm-hmm.
That we were just like holding it, trying not to just destroy the gearbox. But yeah, we took it apart, and I screwed we screwed the piston head back onto the piston. We didn't put any more glue on it, which still need to do that. And just put it back together, which again took like 2.5 hours, because we're not good at it. But we got together, and it fires, and it's actually like laser beam accurate currently, because we test fired it a couple times, and it's fantastic. But that's my emergency tech experience this past weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Taking stuff apart's always fun.
Nice. I know, so for future reference, something that you can do, it's harder to do on a version 3 than it is like a V2, because on a version 2, which everybody listening, the G36 is a V3. And so, and the classic G36 by JG and Tokyo Marui, Classic Army, all those older ones are standard version 3s, where a lot of the new G36s by Ares and Umarex for Elite Force are like a modified version 3, like funky and stupid and weak. It's dumb. Don't buy those. But the JG version 3, standard version 3, like I was saying, this is a Retro Arms. For those who can't see, Brendan and I are Skype video chatting each other so we can like show each other stuff. But I've got a Retro Arms version 3 gearbox shell for a build I'm currently doing for a customer. And this is, like I said, it's a Retro Arms, so it's like it's a tough gearbox shell, and it's got some fancy stuff to it, like a hole where you can assess your bevel to pinion contact. But what I was wanting to show Brendan is like the fact that, for future reference, if you have like a small enough Allen key, you can kind of like jam something up there and like pull the anti-reversal latch so you don't have to.
I tried that.
I was about to say, I was about to ask you if you did.
It was tough. It was so tight I couldn't get it to move, so we just took it apart. It needed to take it apart anyway.
I was about to say, probably the piston, so it was just the piston head that was off?
Yeah, the piston head had come unscrewed from the piston, and somehow, because I couldn't take a look at it while it was shut, and when I opened it, the spring decompressed, but some portion of that, either the piston itself, I think it was the piston itself, caused the spring to it was the gears, because the gears locked up. It had just forced it fully back, and since it wasn't connected, it had all that room between like within the cylinder and everything for the piston head to just move freely since it wasn't connected.
Yeah, so like that's in like I like to do everything optimally when I'm taking apart a gearbox shell, where everything's like shimmed and set up properly. But like in that kind of situation, it's just a worst case scenario. Like you're opening up a nuclear bomb, and it's just like,
and I think we opened it upside down too, which didn't help.
That didn't help.
Like we opened it up and all the gears like fell out, and I was like, good. Nice.
Well, I hope the shimming didn't get thrown off, because I know the shimming was good. That's something I know I'm good at. So
yeah, I know, and that's usually why I have you do it too. Like that's one of the primary reasons. But I mean, there's a shim on every gear on every side, and I think the one place where there were 2 shims, I made sure there were 2 shims again. I'm not sure what else there is to do there, but we didn't lose any shims. I know that. Nice.
Okay, well that's good at least. So one of the topics I wanted to talk about was what should be in someone's emergency teching kit for a field. So like, you're at your bench at your house or apartment, whatever, in your room. You have everything you need to tech on a gun there. Like at least I feel like I do. Like I've got a Dremel, I've got a soldering kit, I've got this big table with like a vise, and then I've got 2 C clamps to like hold stuff down. I got like all kinds of stuff, is what I'm trying to say. And so tons of spare parts. And so like it's easy to fix things here, but it's super hard to fix things at a field where like you might not know what the fail point is on your gun, or like what is the weakest point. So the first part about that is identifying what's the weakest part of your gun, which optimally you should all the things in your gun should be fairly strong and capable of taking abuse for what you throw at it. But there is going to be a weakest part, and it's usually, in my opinion, usually the weakest part of a gun tends to be like in the piston complex or like the tappet plate spring. Those are frequent breaking things. The gears are very hard to break. Even with a poor shim job, I think gears are extremely hard to break. So that's something that is something to identify. That's not going to fail likely. So you want to identify those first, which, like I said, piston complex and tappet plate spring and tappet plate break frequently, especially on high performance builds. So the tools you want to have to fix these kind of problems, you need to have tools to break down your airsoft gun. That's fairly simple. That's like all of these. I mean, Brendan knows I have this kit of Allen keys and Torx bits and Phillips head screwdrivers that fit onto like a Cobalt screwdriver. It's like a little, it's like a hobby thing, And then I have this Cobalt, so I have that set, and then I have this Cobalt like pin punch thing, so I can actually knock pins out of ARs. Like all my pins on my guns are really tight because like the hop up is really pressed up against the gearbox shell, and there's just really good tightness on everything. So you can't just push these pins out on my guns, at least. So like I have to punch them out. On G36 it's a little different. You can just easily punch those out.
Yeah, they're really easy.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the next thing I carry is a longer Phillips head screwdriver. That gets you down the buffer tube of most guns. Also, a flathead screwdriver of the same length is usually preferable because sometimes down the end of a buffer tube it's a flathead, stupidly enough, and not a Phillips head. Sometimes it's actually a Torx bit, I've noticed, and that's a rough one. Because not many people.
I've never seen a long screwdriver like that that's a Torx bit.
I've got one.
Of course you have one, yeah.
I got one. And so,
dang, that's so weird.
I got a nice set for Christmas. You know, if you are still at home with your parents and they get you Christmas stuff, get a nice set of tools. And they will gladly do it for you too. The next thing I carry tool-wise is a Dremel. Because I feel like it's super small, it's super easy to use. I've never had to use it, so maybe it's not justified to have in my kit, but like it's super small. The tools for it are like a grinding wheel, like for steel, and then a cutting wheel that works well for gearboxes. So like those two tools are awesome. I've never had to use them in the field, but like it's a super small setup, so like why not carry that?
I'd personally say bring a soldering kit.
I was gonna say
before you bring a Dremel, because I mean it's super easy to tear wires, which you could possibly just resolder right there in the field, which I've never seen happen, but totally could happen. That'd be very easy to do, like if you're changing out a battery or something.
Well, it's like
a Dremel. I'm not sure what you would really need in the field for that.
The only thing I can think of is like if you need to correct angle of engagement on a piston that you bought or that you brought, and so like your piston broke and you need a new piston, so you go buy a piston at the field, but that piston isn't AOE corrected, so you gotta. It becomes useless now because your AOE is already corrected. So, you don't have the teeth removed on the piston. So that's the only thing I can think of. Like I said, I've never had to do it because whenever I do, well, I guess we can get down to the parts, but whenever I bring extra parts, I bring parts that are modified to fit. So I spend less time. Like Brendan said, a soldering kit is awesome. I carry solder and the soldering kit and like I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the pre-solder stuff that you put on wires and tabs to. Oh yeah,
the earwax looking stuff. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Yeah, I can't either. So that's mainly the tools I bring. Spare parts wise, I bring a piston that's modified to fit my guns. Like just remove the second to last tooth there, and a little bit of the next tooth, and you're pretty much good to go for AOE correction. And then other than that, I bring extra tappet plate springs. I bring extra springs just in case my gun is shooting too hot or too low. I can just pop in a higher spring. And then also I bring piston heads and stuff like that. That's just about what I bring for an emergency kit. I'll also bring Teflon tape, extra shims, extra faucet washers for AOE correction. I'll bring just small stuff like that. Extra O-rings because a cracked O-ring can drop your FPS by 30 or 40. So it's small stuff like that. I recently had to do surgery in the field too. This was a day where a lot of my guns were having small malfunctions, and it was just really frustrating me. And so one of my guns I was using at Cincinnati Airsoft, just having a great time with it. It was performing great. Suddenly it just locks up like Brendan just did. And so, immediately I'm mechanical failure. I go check it out. And I strip it in the field, in the prep zone. And I find out that what happened was the metal faucet washers I used to correct, the aluminum faucet washers I used to correct AOE between my piston and piston head had shattered, actually physically blown up. And were all in the cylinder, scratched it up, and all this junk. And so, I was like, this is literally retarded. So I just swapped some new ones or put some new ones in there, and then rubber ones, and then I cleaned out the cylinder and put it all back together, and it worked fine. But it was just what in the world? So that's a story where I had to do my own surgery in the field. So
yeah,
it's very nerve-wracking, but it feels so great when you get it working again. You're just I am a god among.
I did that. Yes.
It's a pretty good feeling. It's a pretty good feeling. So.
When you start telling another story, I'm going to go grab my gun. I just realized it's out in the living room still because I haven't brought it back in from the game still. I'm lazy. But I'm going to show you the 3D printed Selector Switch.
Oh, you 3D printed Selector Switch?
Well, so the Selector plate on the gearbox of my gun isn't great. It doesn't snap like it used to in the 3 different positions.
It's like 9 years old.
Yeah, it's old. But it's ambidextrous. And
right.
so like I'll flip it down to semi-auto because it's semi-auto only at Ohio Valley. And like I'll be firing around, like, you know, just playing the game, and it gets heated and I'm running around and, you know, whatnot. But my trigger finger, or I guess the part of my hand that's on the other side of the gun from my selector switch, bumps it back up between safety and semi-auto. So like I'll go to engage and I go to pre-fire a guy or something, and it just won't fire because it's halfway in between like the safety and the single. I died a couple times because of that, and it made me mad. So while I had the gun apart last weekend, I literally just took the right hand selector switch, the one where my trigger finger's up against. I just took it off, and we designed and 3D printed like a placeholder, like cylinder for that. So like there's no way I could switch it with the other side of my hand.
So it's no longer ambidextrous, it just works on your right hand?
Right. Yeah.
That's neat. That's
Remove
unique.
the ambidexterity from that.
That's different. I've never heard of someone doing that. That solves your problem.
It bothered me, yeah, so I just took it out.
Well,
And like if I had just left it, there would have just been like this like 1/4-inch diameter hole on that side, like where the rod for the selector switch went in. So 3D printed something just to go in there and bolted it in.
One of the most frustrating things in my early days of teching, like for other people, was when people would send me like these there's this company called GMP, and they make pretty solid airsoft guns, and they're really great upgrade platforms. But people would send me their guns to like DSG or whatever, and I would get this body, like this AR style body, and it would have an ambidextrous selector switch, and those were a pain in the butt as a new tech because like they wouldn't line up properly, and the gearbox shell wouldn't like drop in properly, and you would spend like 45 minutes aligning someone's selector switch when it took you 45 minutes to do all the tuning. Like you'd be there for like an hour and a half just doing all this work.
Yeah,
that was super frustrating.
Part of my kind of emergency teching experience that I left out, after we had put the gearbox all together and everything and fixed the actual issue, I go to put the motor back on, and like I reconnect the wire and everything, and it still wouldn't fire. And I was ticked because I just spent all this work in the gearbox, and I had realized that so at the bottom of the Lonex motor that I have, I think it was it just like slots on, like the wires just slot on to like the actual contacts. The red one, like, because those are really sharp for some reason. And I guess like you've had it just open and close so many times, and the way that it goes into the lower receiver is just ridiculous. Like you were talking about with the ambidextrous fire selector, and
it'll eat it up
properly and everything. Yeah, it ripped through the wires down there and just broke off the connector, whatever it's called, from the motor wires. This is when I was texting you about it, and John Wick broke out his soldering kit and just hard soldered the wire, like just stripped the wire and hard soldered to that connector, and we threw some duct tape over it and dropped it back down in the receiver, and works great. It's great.
One of the things I'm going to stop using motor tabs, like the motor tab connectors. So there was this big thing. I don't know if people still do it. I don't talk to a ton of people that still tech. I'm kind of out of the loop in terms of like the social aspect of it, but like some people I know several years ago would not use motor tabs. They would just solder the wire directly to the motor tab as opposed to using like the connector piece, because they weaken when like they bend at this weird angle, and like that's also technically a point of resistance because now it's like a gap that electricity has to overcome. So it's like, why not just hardwire it on and just not worry about it ever, because you would never be a problem. So
and if you're good at soldering, and if you ever have an issue, you just desolder it or cut the wire or whatever.
Exactly.
And soldering's not hard. Like you could do a 3-minute video on how to solder.
Yeah.
Like all you need to do is buy the set and then watch a video on how it works, and then it should it's just so easy to do.
Yeah, it's not hard at all. And so like I'm probably gonna start doing that because I feel like a lot of a lot of the electrical failures. I guess that's not even technically an electrical failure because it has nothing to do with like the actual like electronic component. It just has to do with the fact that the motor tab connection point snapped. And so that's something I'm probably going to start doing is soldering to the motor tabs, just because it just works better and you'll get less resistance, better rate of fire, better trigger response, better efficiency in your battery and all that kind of stuff. So why not start doing that? I don't know why not. I guess it's just if you're lazy, you don't want to do it, and some people are like that, which also includes me. I'm a relatively lazy person, so I'm not going to lie. All right. Brendan.
Yes.
Do you want to hear about my new project?
Oh, you know I do.
So, if you follow my Instagram account, #TheAirsoftTech, @TheAirsoftTech, you will see a picture of a Halo MA5B, basically Nerf gun, Boomco dart gun. I don't know if Boomco still exists for reasons that we'll talk about in a second. But anyway, so it was announced a couple days ago that 343 or Microsoft or Halo, whatever entity did the partnership, I don't know, is working with Nerf to produce like airsoft guns. Not airsoft guns, Nerf guns. Sorry, that's stupid. To produce like Halo Nerf guns, and so like they're making the MA5, they're making the pistol, they're making something else like a plasma pistol or needler or whatever. So I'm a big fan of airsoft. I'm a big fan of Halo. So the Boomco dart gun is like apparently the perfect base model to turn it into an airsoft gun using the APS UAR version 2. And so like basically the gun drops in with a couple modifications. And so there's a really good YouTube video on it. I'll link it below. I can't remember the guy's name. I think his YouTube channel is like Spartan Jess something. I can't remember. Anyway, he did a really good video on how to convert the Boomco MA5 into MA5 airsoft gun. So the reason why I bought this one real quick, and the reason why I brought up the fact that Halo made that partnership with Nerf, is as soon as I saw that, I realized that, the partnership with Boomco has ended. And so that means that those guns are no longer in production. And so getting one is going to be harder as time goes on. So I just went on Amazon and bought one real quick because I was like, these are going to be impossible to find. And sure enough, there were no new ones. They were only used ones, or ones that were from third-party sellers, not directly from the company. So they already took them off their company shelves is what it looked like on Amazon. So I bought one knowing that this is the only one that has a conversion instruction manual for. Like the new one's not out yet. We don't know if it's going to be easy to convert to an airsoft gun or not. So we know how to convert the Boomco one into an airsoft gun. So I was like, might as well get it and start the project. So that's something you'll see on my YouTube channel, probably April or May when it warms up. I can do the painting and whatnot. But I'm gonna make a video on all the modifications I've done. I'm gonna try to add a round counter on the computer screen of it. Like there's just a sticker here. Brendan has one of these too, but it's just there's a sticker there. And so I'm gonna try to put a round counter right there. And the mechanism I'm going to use, I know, right? The mechanism I'm going to use is like a little computerized system right here, and then adding a wire setup down here that will detect every time a BB goes by.
Dang.
And so I'm going to try to do a couple things here, because like all magazines will hold like different amounts of ammo. So like I'll try to figure out how many rounds this magazine has, and then I'll try to, be able to program this thing to accept different mags. So like if I put in like one of my mag brand magazines that holds like 120, then it'll count up as 120 if I program it for that. But if I put in like one of my P mags that only hold 80, then I can program it to count for 80.
Right.
And so that's part of one of the project.
The amount you put in it each time will be slightly different. I don't know about how much. I mean, especially in a high cap, which I know you don't really use high caps.
No, I don't use a tactical Morocco.
Yeah, but even with mid caps, the amount you can like squeeze in, I know they can hold like max 120 or max 80.
Mm-hmm.
But you may not put that many in there. Or, like I don't know how actually accurate it is.
Probably not very accurate.
Yeah, at least let you know like when you're getting close.
Oh yeah, like if you're less than 10 rounds, it's time to swap the mag out because the last 5 rounds don't feed anyway.
Yeah.
So. But that's going to be one of my projects. I'm also going to try to add a flashlight to the bottom of it, like in here, this little hand grip.
Ooh. Yeah.
that I can just turn on and off with like some pressure here.
That'd be cool. Is
yeah.
that going to be like an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, or do you know? Arduino and Raspberry Pi, like little computers that you can program to do whatever. Is that like the computer you're going to use?
Oh, I don't know. I've not done the research on specifically the computer. I didn't know there was one called Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, it's Raspberry Pi Pi.
Oh, okay.
I have one for my printers. You can literally program it to do anything. They mostly use like you can make robots and stuff if you wanted to, but they can control LEDs. They can literally anything that you want to do. You can program it to do. And there's probably already code out there for it that you would just have to upload. Plus, coding's not that hard. So, I mean, depending on the language.
Hashtag learn to code.
You could definitely figure it out just for like the few lines that you may want to add. But yeah, you just have to find a place to mount it, which would be the hard part.
Is it a large thing? I'm going to Google it real quick. Is it a large thing? Like, how big is it?
It's probably about 5 by 3 or 4. I'm not sure. Maybe 3 by 5, 4 by 5, 4 by 6, somewhere in there.
It says you can buy it at Walmart. I don't know if I believe that.
I've never seen them at Walmart. Just get them on Amazon. They're like $20.
I see all kinds of stuff, like, Google it, and I was like, oh, you can buy that at Walmart. It's like, when you actually go to Walmart, no, not at all.
There's no way.
Like, the one Walmart in Spain might have it.
Right.
So, that's going to be one of my projects. But it's going to be a long one, because I need to, like, there's a lot to do for this one. Like, I don't keep a gun stock, so it's not going to be the stock APS UAR. APS is just a pretty junky brand too. Like internally, they're pretty terrible. So I got to replace a lot of stuff there, and then I got to do the modifications for the shell that it's going to fit into, and then I got to do the computerized chip, and then I got to do the flashlight. So it's going to be a lot of stages, but it's going to be worth it at the end of the summer. Hopefully, it'll be completely done, or maybe beginning of summer.
We're going to hold to that. Here, you guys heard it here first. Right now, by the end of the summer, is the goal for this Airsoft Halo assault rifle by TheAirsoftTech.
I can barely keep up. I'm not even barely keep up to the once a week video schedule, so don't worry, I will catastrophically fail. So, but yeah, it's one of my most recent project that I'm working on. In addition to customer guns, I've got 3 total right now. So, working on.
How long does it usually take you what's your turnaround time or average turnaround time for a customer gun?
Bad. It's rough. The problem is I whenever I was in like high school and college, I was like, oh man, whenever I graduate and start having a full-time job, I'll have plenty of time with my life.
Yep.
Like that's a total lie. So I figured like, oh, I'll have plenty of time. I'll be able to plan airsoft teching more. I'll be able to do YouTube stuff more. Complete and total lie. I currently have 6 days off from work because that's just how I scheduled myself at the hospital, and I have something going on every single day.
Good.
Ancillary.
That'll go down after the wedding and everything.
Yeah, ancillary to work, and so like I have wedding planning to do. I have to go get fitted or get my suit measured up and all this stuff that I bought.
Yeah.
And it's just small things that give me that add just enough disruption to my day that I can't start a proper project,
Right.
And so, this project this one I'm almost done with. It's a ICS SIG 551 or 2. I don't know. I'm not good at the SIG brand look, but it's a super cool gun. It's a very tough gun. Externally, it feels nice. Internally, It was standard ICS, which is doable. It's good stuff, but it's not like high performance. And so I'm putting in the customer sent me this CNC 7075 aluminum gearbox shell, and it's like a tank. Like you cannot break these things, and so there's no need for this kind of tough gearbox shell, but he wanted it, so he's going to get it. It's got a MOSFET in it, the same one that's in your G36.
Yeah.
And a pretty speedy motor. I think it's let's see here. Oh, it's a Infinity. The 30,000 one should be a pretty speedy motor. The weird thing on the ICS is that they're like a moderate, medium-sized motor. They're not a long or a short, they're medium. So you can only use them in 3 types of guns. So, is what it is.
Yeah, whatever.
And then I'll be working on a Crytek LMG, and then another one. It's like a GMP-N4, just something simple. So, I'm gonna try to make videos on all those.
Yeah. I guess it's the plus side to have people send in guns to you because they'll might have a video made.
Free content. And everybody's like, dude, will you make a video of it? And I'm like, I'm gonna try to. I'm not gonna get your hopes up and then break your hopes when I don't do it. So
yeah.
I've stopped building up people's hopes.
Yeah. You know what I really need to do? I
What's
need to
that?
print some Picatinny side rails for my G36 and just I don't know. I guess if I really wanted to, I could just drill a hole through the polymer or whatever, and actually mount it properly, or I could just mount it with some freaking Velcro, which is probably what I would end up doing. But it would be so easy because there's already 3D files of Picatinny rails online, and I could just print it so easily.
You know how
I already have Velcro.
You know how easy it would be to take a drill, literally print the rail, take a screw and a bolt and then a drill, and you could properly mount these, and they wouldn't go anywhere ever.
See,
you better not use
yes.
Velcro.
But see, using the drill just makes the project so much bigger.
My boy,
but I can do it.
You printed a
have
sledgehammer.
I did. Where's my hammer at?
For those who don't know, Rainbow Six Siege was something that we play all the time as a friend group, and he printed Sledge's hammer in segments and then secured it all together, and it looks legit.
Seconds is a lie.
No.
I did not print it in seconds.
Oh no, I meant sections. You printed it in sections.
Oh, yeah. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces.
How did you secure that?
How did I what?
How is that secured together?
So I actually, we take the bottom spike is removable because I'm going to fill it with sand for weight. But there's actually a PVC rod running through the whole thing.
Okay.
I took the original files and just literally lined it all up and cut a cylinder through the thing with the same diameter of the outer diameter of the PVC rod that I bought. And it goes up through the whole thing. The actual hammer head itself is hollow with 10mm walls. And just lined everything up on the PVC rod, and then I glued it all together. If I were to do it better, I would print tabs on the actual individual pieces, so I can make sure that they were lined up properly. But I just eyeballed it, and I think it looks pretty good. I actually had to do some modifications the other day. So I had one of these side faces of the actual hammerhead cut off, just to make it easier to print, and I could mess with the internals. And I had to print this. The easiest way to describe it is a volcano shape, and I put that around the PVC rod on the inside, and I super glued everything down, and then I coated it with fiberglass resin just on the inside. And then I used fiberglass resin on where the hammerhead meets the handle, and then on several pieces down on the handle itself. I yanked on it with as much force as I possibly could. It's kind of awkward to hold, but I was pulling on it, and I can't get it off. So yeah, I'm just going to pull that bottom cap off and then fill it with sand from the bottom to give it weight, and then I'm going to paint it, and it's going to be great.
I don't know which one would be more what you're looking for. Maybe could you pour silicone down it so it's impact shockable, it absorbs shock, or you just want sand because it's easier?
Sand would be a lot easier because I'm on the beach of Lake Erie, which I would literally just go there and get sand from the beach instead of buying sand. Silicone would be a lot more expensive, but I don't even think that would make it more impact resistant. What I would be worried about with impacts is actually breaking the walls of the print itself.
Sure.
Because it's got the head itself has 2mm wall thicknesses. So the overall, since it's hollow, in the 3D model, the walls are 10mm thick. So 4 of those millimeters are actual solid plastic, and the other 6 are infilled at 25%. So I'd be worried about it breaking through 4 of those millimeters of plastic into the infill.
Sure.
More so than breaking through the wall itself, like the entirety of the plastic.
That makes sense. I don't know enough about 3D printing. That's something I should definitely get into.
It's a lot of fun. I really like it. It goes back to the whole like troubleshooting aspect, because I know how it works fundamentally, and when something goes wrong based on how it sounds or what it's doing, I can figure out what's wrong with it. Ended up fixing it. I've had to fix my first printer, the first printer I got. So I can't even count how many times it is. I had one major incident where it almost caught on fire, which I'm going to use this as a plug. So many people are afraid of their printers catching on fire, and they should, like, that is a reason that they won't even get a 3D printer, and they totally shouldn't be afraid of that, because there are so many safeguards against it, and it will not catch on fire unless you set it on fire. The only reason mine almost caught on fire was because I was cleaning out plastic that had gunked up around the extruder, and I accidentally used one of the wires to the heating element as leverage on a piece of plastic with a screwdriver, and I actually broke the wire to the heating element. So the wire shorted and ended up like
smoking,
almost going up in flames. Yeah, it started heating up real fast, so I shut it down. I just got the wires replaced and I fixed it, and it's never had a problem since. So don't be afraid of fires. Even like leaving it when, I mean, it depends on the brand and like how you run it and everything, but if you know what you're doing, then you have no need to worry about it catching on fire.
Yeah, I just need a 3D printer because I need to be like, well, I don't have this part, but I think I can find it online and just print it. Like, that's just a cool concept. That's such an, like, that's like kind of an old, now it's like kind of antiquated.
Sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, no, it's like kind of antiquated to say now, even because it's like, well, duh, of course you know that's the point of the 3D printer. But
right.
I just don't think we've reached we're nowhere near the limit of printing. Like, you know,
yeah,
I work in the medical field, like most people on here know, and so like printing organs could be a thing one day. That's pretty neat. So
yeah.
That's not related to teching, but you know, whatever. That's just a topic.
Not yet.
It's true. But
yeah, it's great. My thought is that FDM printing, which is fused deposition modeling, manufacturing, fused deposition manufacturing, which is just the normal 3D printing, like plastic, how you see Gavin and I do it. That's what that is. But SLA printing is selective. No, I don't remember what it stands for. But that's the resin printing. And the technology for that is really coming around. And I think that, like in the future, like when we're older, probably within our lifetimes, that'll become, it might even phase out the normal plastic 3D printing. I mean, there'll probably always be a place for it, but I think as for like household stuff, the resin will become a lot more useful, because I think it can be faster. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but for right now, this actually works great. I'll go ahead and show you the selector switch. So, you know, I got the selector switch for the right-handed side. Works fine.
And that's the side the selector plate is actually on anyway.
Yeah. On this side, yeah, because it's just connected by like a rod that goes like right through like that piece to this side. So literally just this small cylinder.
Yeah.
And there's another similar cylinder on the inside, right across from this, and it's just, I don't know if you can see it. It's just a Phillips head screw that goes right to the other side, and I think there's a bolt on the other side. So it's probably not a screw; it's a bolt, and then there's a nut on the inside. This actually turns freely, just because there's no, I don't know, we didn't like mount it to anything on the actual gun piece itself. No real need, but it doesn't get in my way. No, like I'd have to actually reach for it and turn it, and even then, if I turn it, it doesn't affect the actual selector.
Yeah.
So I can only affect it from that side now, which it's really great. I haven't used it in game yet, but I see no reason why it shouldn't work.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, the whole point of the G36 was ambidextrous, but like, who cares?
I'm right-handed, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, who cares? It's airsoft.
going to switch arms. Oh, that even feels wrong.
Yeah.
When I do that, I'm going to like full on R6 siege style, like lean.
Yeah.
Around
You're lean spamming.
Yeah, honestly though.
No, whenever I was younger, I was in Boy Scouts, and I had never shot a gun until like a real gun until Boy Scouts, and so we were shooting these 22 rifles, and the range instructor, I was a stupid 12-year-old, and the range instructor was like, "What hand do you shoot? What hand do you shoot with?" And I was like, "I don't know, I've never shot a gun," and he was like, "Well, what hand do you like? What's your dominant hand?" And I didn't know what dominant meant. And so I was like, I guess my left hand, and I'm right-handed.
Oh my gosh.
So I learned how to shoot left-handed. Like, and I was pretty decent at it. Like, I got my merit badge, and I went to shotgun shooting left-handed, and I did very good at that. And then I went to the Boy Scout, what do you call it? The big summit camp, like where like nations of Boy Scouts meet up. And the NRA was doing a pistol shooting range and rifle shooting range and all this really cool stuff. And I shot pistols left-handed. I shot everything left-handed. And then my dad was, and this was when I was like 16. I was still doing that. My dad was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not left-handed." And I was like, "Well, that's how I learned to shoot." And so like I can very comfortably shoot both-handed now. Like whenever I shoot my real gun, I shoot right-handed because it does feel a little better. But when I play airsoft, it's no problem to switch left and right to me. Like
that's actually pretty cool.
That's just how I learned how to shoot. Now I can't write with my left hand. I can't do anything else with my left hand. So, is what it is though. Anyway, I think we're kind of nearing the end of the airsoft topic part. We got about 10 minutes left. You want to talk about EDC stuff because that's something that highly interests Brendan and I.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with this backpack I got. So. Real quick, everybody in the audience, there's this company called 3V Tactical, and they reached out to me in conjunction with my YouTube channel because that's where they noticed me, and asked me if I'd be willing to review one of their backpacks, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? And so it's a pretty good backpack. It's their Outlaw 2, I think is what it's called. You can check it out on there if you want to get a visual of it. It's like a 3 or 4 compartment backpack. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compartments actually, and it's pretty sweet. It holds everything I want it to hold in terms of like my EDC, like my Glock. It holds my iPad. It holds spare batteries for my flashlight. It holds all my pens. It holds my tourniquet. Holds stuff like that. It's really neat. I'm gonna do a review of it on my YouTube channel. I'll review it as an EDC bag on there, and also kind of like be like, hey, you can put your AirsoftTech stuff in here too, because like it's got great compartments for that. So it's a single sling backpack too, so like it slings really, really well. And like, you know how most single sling backpacks you have to kind of like throw it over your head? Like this one has a strap right here, and so you just do this and then wrap it around.
See, that's how mine was, but mine was made a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a Y,
Yeah.
Both of the points of the Y connected at the same point. They almost overlapped. So instead of being one big buckle and the other one coming in the side on a different part, it was a medium to smaller size buckle on top of a smaller buckle, and it was right on my sternum.
Oof.
So, yeah, I ended up taking that whole, like, one of the entire straps just off completely and only using the bottom clip. Otherwise, it would just, like, any
sternal rub
in
you.
The bag at all would just drive itself into my sternum, and it was super uncomfortable and it hurt.
It'll just sternal rub you all day.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, mine was the same way. It was great. I was really looking forward to that aspect of just being able to, like, throw it over and then clip it, but... and it doesn't bother me too much to just throw it over my head.
Well, like you see on this one, like, so it doesn't have, like, it's got this big soft strap that, like, comes all the way around. And, like, where it connects right here, it's already on your soft spot, like, on your abdomen. So, like, it doesn't dig. It doesn't even dig up into my ribs. So, like, it's totally comfortable. The only uncomfortable part about it is, like, this top portion here. It kind of digs into your shoulder a little bit. But, like, I've never had a single sling bag that did not dig a little bit,
Yeah, see if you can see it on mine. So I got the big soft strap from this bit, this little hook, just like a normal clip, and go to my right side, and then also this clip would come around to my left side.
Yeah.
So like all the weight was on the top part though, and it would just it was bad. But it's actually, other than that, really great.
Claire and I went to the mall today for just wedding planning stuff, and we went. There's this like tactical store in the mall here in Lexington, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go in here and check it out. And so they had a K-bar knife for sale.
Yes.
And so I was like, that's pretty neat. And I'll be honest, I checked it out, and people probably think I'm stupid for this, but like, whatever, capitalism is what it is. So I checked out the knife there, and I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. I might get it. I might get this. And I'll show you what kind of K-bar knife it was. And I was like,
this one?
No, it's not that one.
It's not this one.
No, it's cool though. But I was like, I might get this. And they're like, yeah, it's $58. I was like, yeah, it's a knife. If it's a nice knife, I'm into that. I look online, and it's like $26. And I was like, listen, I hate to be that guy, but I'm not spending an extra $30. It's this one right here.
Oh, I see.
And it's got a Kydex holster for it that fits on your belt.
It's almost like a karambit, but it's bent like a karambit. That's really shit. That's pretty cool.
For those who want to,
$50 though.
Yeah, I know. For those who want to know what this is, it's the K-Bar TDI Law Enforcement, and I bought it because I was like, what, I really want this for EDC, first of all, and second of all, whenever I do work on the ambulance, I want a knife on me. Like, I want a really good quick access knife. And so
you're gonna have that on your bag or on your belt.
So for EMS, I'll wear it on my belt, but for EDC, I'll probably slap it on my bag, like not on it, because it would be easily accessible if someone wanted to take it, and so I'll probably put it inside of it, or it's actually a concealed carry thing too, because you can like hide it real well. Did Bailey get you that?
No, I got this years ago, but Bailey has this exact same one. It's just like a little karambit, and I just strapped it to the side of my bag, because when my bag is thrown around me, I can actually easily lift it up with my left hand and just whip it right out, if I would ever need to, because I always have two other knives in my pockets on top of that, and then there's also like two more knives inside the bag, but this is more of like a self-defense kind of last resort, because I don't expect to ever actually need this. This is just like a little... it's actually entirely serrated.
Yeah.
If you can see it, it's entirely serrated. But I mean, it would.
It would suck to hit with.
Yeah, that would really suck. Yeah. If for whatever reason, because like I don't know, my EDC is in a weird. It's at a weird point because I work on a government facility, so I can't actually bring my gun legally, and I'm also living in the state of Ohio, in which I am not technically a resident. So
you can't carry, really. You're not aware of the laws super well, so you just don't do it, right?
I need a permit to carry here, which I don't in West Virginia, or in Kentucky. West Virginia and Kentucky are the two states that you actually don't need that.
Because we recognize we recognize the human right to self-defense,
Yes. But here I need a permit, and I think to get a permit I need to be a resident. But the weird thing is, on the Ohio state government website, like ohio.gov, it says that like to be qualified as a resident, basically the wording was very weird and ambiguous, but you needed to like just lay your head at night in Ohio to be considered a resident.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
It's like, thou may beat thy wife on the 5th step of the state capitol building at noon.
It was really weird. So, and I'm not going to be here forever. It's just so I haven't gone through the process of getting a concealed carry permit or anything. I've thought about it. I feel like it'd be a lot more trouble since I'm not technically a resident.
Well, like
I'd have to argue it and everything. And I just haven't dealt with it.
Some places actually will fight you over it. Like, this is, you don't live in Ohio. You don't live in New York, but like, for example, in New York, you have to like, I don't know all the laws about it, but I watched an interesting video about one guy trying to get a permit to just carry and own a handgun. And it was like, you had to show to the police that you had legitimate reason to carry. And legitimate reason was up to them, not up to...
Right.
It wasn't like a pre-listed set of things by like a legislative body. It was like, you have to have a reasonable reason to carry, and there's no like, i.e. that means... It was just, that was it. And so like, the guy is a relatively popular political figure, like somebody who is like a political speaker. And so like...
Mike Bloomberg.
Woo, lad. I think if you're Mike Bloomberg, you just pay for people to carry guns for you, and then say nobody else around you. Nobody else should be able to own guns, though. So, but no, this guy was basically denied a permit to carry because, and he showed proof. He was like, people have actually threatened me, like on YouTube comments, on Facebook comments, and I've messaged him like, I'm going to kill you. Is like what they were saying to him, and so. He showed that proof, and that still wasn't good enough. And it took him like 6 months to get that answer too. And so it's like, here in Kentucky, I can literally go down to a gun store and be like, I want to buy this Glock. And it's like,
stick it in your back pocket and walk away with it.
Yeah, because like, well, why not? You know, like we drive 3,000-pound cars that can kill 20 people on the side of the road, but carrying a Glock 43 is a crime in some states. So.
Yeah, I think it should be federalized, honestly. It's so much, like, not so much effort, really, because, I mean, I don't think it should be too easy to get and carry a gun. But I don't think it should be so complicated. And I shouldn't have to, like, for someone who already has a gun, I shouldn't have to worry about, like, oh, I'm going like, across state lines for the weekend. And I need to carry, like, do I have to have a permit? Like, am I going to get arrested? Like, if something happens, you know, like living in Morgantown, that's like an hour and a half from Pittsburgh. So, like, we'll go up to Pittsburgh, like, on a weekend sometimes, and, like, I'll want to carry because it's Pittsburgh, and I want to carry. So, but I shouldn't have to worry about, like, oh, man, if I go 10 feet north, you know, am I committing a felony? Or, like, that's just kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, it is ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I mean, like, I'm totally for national reciprocity. I think if you take a concealed carry class, you should be able to just carry it wherever you want, unless it's like someone's private house, whatever. But like, in terms of I'm driving to Pennsylvania for the day, you know, like that shouldn't be a problem. So that's kind of off topic to EDC, but like at the same time, it's not. You know, every EDC should have a firearm, I think. Especially if it's like civilian EDC. Like if you're a government employee, like at NASA, you can't carry a gun. But like, and if you're in a hospital, you can't carry a gun. But like, if you're going to Walmart, you know, like, or if you're going to the mall. So,
I gotta find this picture I saw on Reddit earlier. It was actually I'm on r/EDC on Reddit, and someone posted a picture of. I'll have to go back and find it, send it to you, but. It was like Walmart carry, and it was the typical Walmart woman. She's like huge, and she's wearing like sweatpants, and she's got, I don't know what kind of gun it was, but it was some sidearm and a Kydex holster clipped to the outside of her sweatpants, and it was like hanging down to the side and everything. It was just really funny. So if someone like her can get a gun and carry it, everyone should. That's
literally West Virginia, though. Like, I remember, you know, Huntington and Barbersville, like, people would just... It would not be unreasonable to see someone with, like, a revolver strapped on, like, a leather thigh holster, like Han Solo.
I think it was cool.
As a kid, I never cared. My parents were just like, they're just... That's how they live. And I was like, yeah. So, is what it is.
Well, I know you wanted to wrap up. You told me to think of stuff, and I thought of a couple things, but I guess we can get to those at a different time.
Oh, we never got to them. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
But
we covered some good stuff, though.
I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. I'm gonna try to produce these like once every 2 weeks, maybe. I think that's something reasonable to shoot for. Every week would be a little rough because weeks get rough from time to time. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for listening to all of that. It was kind of a ramble at some points, but trying my best to keep it fully Airsoft Tech related, but it's hard because both of our lives have so much stuff going on in them that it's just fun to talk about all kinds of different stuff too. So, yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and if you're not subscribed, do so. If you're not liking and commenting on these videos, you better do so. I like feedback, so please do all that. Anyway, is that all you have, Brendan?
That's about all I have. I think only 3 people have liked my comment on your EDC video.
Oof.
For me to do my own. So if you actually want to see one, message me, message TheAirsoftTech, go back and comment on the video, like my comment.
Comment on this video, yo.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Let me know, and I'll make one. That's about all I got, though.
Sweet. All right. Well, we'll see you guys later. Bye.